our webinar is now starting. So I'm going to assume that you can all see and hear me, and I will talk you through NLP for Novices. So this is a brand new webinar for me to be delivering, but I have been working with NLP for an extremely long time. Whoever is jolly good at maths can let me know how many years it is. I qualified in NLP in 2004. So it was a fair chunk of time ago, and I actually became a trainer of NLP within a very short period of time. So I think my trainer certificate is 2005, 2006 time, and I have been using it ever since then. I'll be hands up honest and say it took me a little while to transition out of my proper job. So I used to work with children in private daycare. I transitioned away from that and into running my own businesses, and I will tell you more about those, I'm sure, as the evening goes on. So let us get cracking this evening. There's going to be, let me tell you the format of this evening's slideshow. I am going to be taking you through some things that really help to define what NLP is. We'll do a little bit of finding out why you guys are here, why you've chosen to attend this webinar this evening. And I'll also give you some examples of how you can start weaving NLP into your day-to-day life. Because the thing with this is it's not rocket science, but it's stuff that is easy to either forget to do or to get a bit complacent about. And so I think what NLP does is it really just helps to sort of realign your thinking and your emotions onto a better track. When we get towards the end of the webinar, I'm going to let you know about some other opportunities that there are coming up for you, and other freebies and bits and pieces like that that may be of interest to you. So let me tell you a bit about me. My name is Gemma Bailey. It's lovely to be with you all this evening. So my background, as I said way back when, was working with children and young people. I'm actually a qualified nursery nurse, and that was how I started my working career. I thought I was going to be changing the world by working with our future generations. As it turns out, I was changing lots of nappies. And so it's a very low paying, for any of you who happen to work with young people or work in care for that matter, it tends not to be a high paying profession. And so I was really thinking about what else I could be doing with, my future. And I stumbled across hypnotherapy and NLP and went down the rabbit hole. I did not yet come out the other side. So after I'd completed my NLP training, the very first company that I set up as a sole trader was the Hypnotherapy and NLP Clinic. And through this particular company, I work with individuals, typically adults, but not always. And as it says there, it's around issues like anxiety, confidence, habits, phobias, all sorts of different issues that relate to emotional and mental well-being. From there, I then became an NLP trainer, and I set up my first limited company, which is People Building. So People Building is a training company through which I teach NLP and hypnotherapy. So I'm also an accredited trainer of hypnotherapy as well. I can teach hypnotherapy to a diploma standard, which means that you're able to register with the General Hypnotherapy Standards Council. With NLP, all of our trainings are accredited by the Association of NLP, so the ANLP, who are the worldwide professional body for NLP. So all of our qualifications are accredited. I began putting together some resources. Now, I'd like to say that I was being really sort of business savvy and putting together products that I could use and sell for when I wasn't actually face to face with clients or teaching. That's not entirely accurate. It was more by accident. I was writing scripts for the clients that I would see for hypnotherapy, and noticed that lots of other therapists would say, "Oh, can I borrow your script to work with my client?" And I'd very generously say, "Yes, of course you can." And then their client would see them, and the therapy would be successful, and they would get paid. And it took a little while, quite frankly, before the penny drops. And I thought, hang on a minute, they're using my words and my work to help their clients and they get paid. I'm not getting anything here. So I actually started to sell my hypnosis scripts. And then I also started recording those into an audio format as well. The audios, the hypnosis audios, are sold all over the world. I actually got them onto iTunes when iTunes was very new. So I can legitimately say that I have over 80 albums on iTunes. Obviously it's hypnosis because it's not me singing. And from there, my kind of audio work really sort of took off, and I started up a podcast called the People Building Podcast. The original show was just on iTunes and other podcasting platforms, and I would talk about NLP and different NLP techniques that people could use. It was really a self-development podcast, to be quite honest, and I'd do little bits of hypnotherapy and relaxation in there too, and that show was in the top 10 of the alternative health download chart for the 5 years that the show ran on iTunes. And then I paused it because I got busy with other stuff, which we'll talk about in just a moment, but actually the show came back I think 2 years ago now, and I've been doing it ever since. The difference this time around is that there is now a video version which goes out on on YouTube. So as well as having our iTunes audience, who are the audio audience, we also have our visual audience, who are the YouTube audience as well. All of those hypnosis scripts I mentioned, they got published into a book. So I was approached by a publisher and I put together all of my hypnosis scripts and then also guidance around how to create them. You might have assumed by now that there is some kind of connection between NLP and hypnotherapy. There is a little bit of crossover between those two worlds. NLP, I guess if I could compare the two, mainly with NLP, your eyes are open. Mainly with NLP, with hypnotherapy, your eyes are shut. That's probably the biggest difference. A lot of the techniques we use in NLP can be used with someone in hypnosis, and a lot of the linguistic aspects of hypnotherapy are used in NLP. So that's kind of where the bridge between the two is. I set up a membership club, so for people who are super interested in self-development and who want some monthly resources to give them a bit of a kick in the right direction, and just to kind of get themselves a bit grounded. I think one of the things I will tell you up front about my style in how I share NLP and how I deliver personal development programs generally is I like it to be realistic. It has to work in the real world. That to me is really important. And I meet a lot of people in the personal development, self-development world who are what I would politely call a bit fluffy. Do you know the kind of people I'm talking about? Like, they're just a bit woo-woo. And I'm not saying that being spiritual is bad. That's not the point that I'm making. It's just that it has to make sense in actual real life in order for my brain to feel comfortable sharing it with others. So just know at this point, it's a heads up. When you learn NLP with me, it's going to be relevant to your actual real life and the stuff that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So Members Club is just that. It's that little kick, that little poke in the right direction once a month to kind of, just help you keep the momentum up and keep yourself going in the right direction. Then I have a little company, which some of you might have heard of, which is called NLP4Kids. So NLP for Kids started up in 2007, and this is a franchise company. So I both teach people how to use NLP specifically with children, and then some of those people stick with me, get to utilize my branding and my business guidance, and we set them up with websites and seeing clients and all of that jazz, and help them get contracts in schools as well. So that's NLP for Kids. So we're mainly working with sort of mental and emotional well-being of children, parents, teenagers, teachers, and anyone sort of related to those groups. The NLP for Kids book came out, I want to say 3 years ago now, and this one was a self-published book. And then I think Superheroes, how old is Superheroes now? Superheroes is either 3 or 4 this year. I think 3. So Superheroes is a not-for-profit company, Again, specializing in similar areas, so mental and emotional well-being, personal development, etc. But with superheroes, it's a way for those who would not ordinarily be able to afford to access the services of people building, NLP for kids, to be able to do so. And so for those people, they tend to be in receipt of benefits, or their children are receiving government funding, pupil premium. And so, superheroes is because I know that in terms of what NLP can offer, that sometimes the people that need it most are the ones who can't afford it. So superheroes is just an opportunity for us to reach those people. It is funded by different funding sources, but primarily from the profits that are made in NLP for kids and people building. So as much as I prefer having money to not having money, I'm sure like the rest of you, just know that I'm not here to sort of grab your cash and roll around in it. Although that sounds like quite a nice idea. Actually, I like to make sure everyone gets paid on time, and then beyond that, the profits that are made, a proportion of those goes into superheroes so that we can continue to do that work. So that's a little bit about me. It might be nice to find out a little bit about you guys at this point in time. So I'm just going to hop on over to our questions box. Maybe you guys, whilst I'm going through these next few slides, can be pinging me over some hellos, etc. And also just tell me who you are and what you're currently doing in your lives, because I'm interested to know how NLP might fit in with that. So I can see I've got Alan, Alexa, Barchu, Caroline, Dana, David, Debo, am I saying that correctly? I hope so. Elliot, Ian's so keen, he's actually listed twice. John, and then someone beginning with M, this is probably a spy. Niaz, Odell, Ravi, Richard, Robert, Vernon. Hello to all of you. You have a little question. M is for Maria. Hi Maria. So you've got a little questions box on your screen there so that you can type bits and pieces in, ask questions as we go through, and please do so. Please engage with me, because it will make my webinar more fun. Ian Young said M could be Maria. Do you know what, Ian? I think you might be right, because she just said so. All right, hi Vernon, nice to see you here this evening. All right, so send me over a little message about what you're currently doing with your lives and how you're looking for NLP to fit in with that. I appreciate some of you may just be here for self-development purposes, and that's absolutely fine as well. So here's my suggestions about why you might be here. Maybe you're here to learn to be happier. Maybe you are here to find out how to communicate really, really well. So I've already mentioned sort of mental and emotional health, which is where the happier bit comes in. But we haven't talked yet about the communication side of NLP. We will, don't worry. But obviously there's an L in NLP, and that L stands for linguistic. So we know that there's going to be some stuff in here about communication. You might be here because you want to improve your relationships. To be honest, that's tied in with the previous one, because if you want good relationships, you need to be a good communicator. And part of being a good communicator is knowing how to say no, because that's a challenge sometimes, and being able to put those sorts of boundaries in place. Knowing how to communicate honestly, because sometimes what comes out of our mouth is out of sync with what we're feeling inside, and we might be doing that to preserve somebody else's emotions. Sometimes that communication or the relationships can go a bit squiffy and a little bit off track, because actually we don't pick up the cues to tell us when we're antagonizing the other person. And that comes down to something called sensory acuity. It's being able to notice the tiny micro changes in somebody's facial structure, in their muscle movements, the twitch of an eye. I'm talking tiny, tiny stuff here that's going to help you to realize when someone is moving from potentially a very good emotional state to one where they're maybe starting to get a little bit frustrated. You can pick up on this stuff a whole lot sooner than you probably do at the moment, and it's learnable. All right, so that's what we're going to be talking about on NLP training. Maybe you are here to learn stuff that will make you richer. We've got two versions of that. So I'm talking about obviously there are some of you who are maybe thinking, maybe I could be an NLP coach like Gemma, maybe I could have a business like that, and you absolutely can. You've got to get the right qualifications to be able to do it, and there's other bits and pieces that are important, like the business setup aspect of it, but it's 100% possible. And to be honest, when I qualified in NLP, I would say that it felt like I was doing it at the wrong time for two reasons. Reason number one is that everyone and their mother was doing NLP training, so the market felt a little saturated. My NLP trainers training, I think there were 30 to 40 of us on that course, and we were all going to be going off and doing the same thing. My practitioner training, there were 98 people. So that's 98 new NLP coaches going out into the world. So it was a very competitive time. The other reason why it was bad timing is because no one gave a fig about mental health back then. 2004, if people mentioned the words mental health, it was scary. Those two words together, that meant bad things. The conversation has changed. We are in a better place now, better than ever, for setting NLP practitioners out into the world, because we have got big mental health problems. They are growing. This problem is not going away, and people are open to it now more than they ever were. Is it perfect yet? No, of course not. There is still a lot more conversation to be had in those areas. People still need to grow more comfortable with talking about mental health, but we are leaps and bounds ahead of where we were in 2004. So in not just my opinion, but I'm talking from a business perspective here as well, this is the time. I did it at the wrong time, and I'm only just now really kind of going, oh, thank God I did that back then, because now I'm in exactly the right place, and it's going very successfully. It's always a weird thing to be talking about business and mental health in the same conversation. I appreciate that, but the bottom line is people need help, and I get paid for doing it. So in my view, it's quite a nice little marriage of two things coming together. That might be something that you two are interested in. There's also the richness that comes from actually just being at peace somewhat within yourself, feeling satisfied with yourself and who you are and everything that you have to offer the world. And I can tell you now that these two forms of richness really do come hand in hand, because there are some days when I experience what I like to refer to as a legal high, and that's the feeling you get when you have helped someone to change their life in a positive way. You cannot put a price on that. You cannot buy that feeling. It's like nothing. I can't compare it to anything else. There is nothing else that I've ever experienced in my life that is comparable to that feeling of knowing that you have set someone on a different path to where they were headed. And sometimes that happens with the young people that I work with, where I maybe have a bit of an inkling that, if this kid carries on the way they're going, they're going to be in young offenders. And then I see them turn it around. Sometimes it's with adults where I see that they are on the verge of a marriage breakdown, and that if something doesn't change, then their whole world is going to get turned upside down, not just for them but for their entire family. And that they learn to communicate with each other, and that they fall back in love with each other. Like, the feeling that you get from helping people to achieve those sorts of changes in their lives is really very, very special. You might be here so that you can become a great leader. Speaking of which, did you all vote today? I hope you did. I went out in the rain. I don't know if the rain will affect the number of people that actually get out there and vote today. And I'll let you into a little secret. I thought today it was going to be a general and a local election for some reason. I got very confused. I was expecting 2 ballot papers. So I maybe didn't vote in quite the same way that I would have done if I'd realised that they wasn't going to give me a second ballot paper for the general election. It was all the general election. There was no local one today, or at least there wasn't where I live. I know there were in other places. So yeah, make what you will of who's on the screen right now. I think he gets sort of quite mixed views, doesn't he? Maybe you're here because you want to learn the skills that will help you to help others, which I've explained a little bit about what that looks like already. Maybe you're just here because you want to become a mind ninja. The one downside I would say about being an NLP practitioner is that you learn how people think. And whilst that sounds very exciting, it can also be incredibly inconvenient at times, because when you know how people, it's like sometimes you don't want to know what they're thinking. Do you know what I mean? It's like a superhero skill. It's like being able to, there's probably a superhero who could hear people's thoughts. You know, it's like that kind of a thing, where sometimes you just don't want to know what people are thinking, you want to switch it off. And I'll give you a really good example of this actually. This is quite a funny one. So I have a few very, very good friends, and two of my best friends and it was one summer, we went to the pub, and one of my best friends back in those days would always drink exactly the same drink. Okay, now this was when we were a fair bit younger. He would always have a vodka and Red Bull. Does anyone still drink that? I don't even know. So this is my friend Chris. Chris would always have a vodka and Red Bull, but this time it was a bright sunny day. It was still fairly early in the evening. And we were sat there in the pub. We'd all, gone in, found chairs, sat down, and then maybe we'd had a drink already, I'm not sure. Now my friend Matthew, who is super tight with his money, I'm not afraid to say, decided he was going to get up and get the drinks. That in itself was a revelation. But Matthew then said to me, you know, what would you like? And I obviously said what I wanted. And then he turned to Chris and said, the same as usual, which means vodka and Red Bull, because that's what Chris always drinks. Now, in a matter of milliseconds, I'm looking at Chris and I see that his eyes flick like that quick. Those of you that are watching this back on YouTube are going to see how quickly I did that. So his eyes flicked over somewhere super quick, and I'd already clocked on the way in that on that door that his eyes had just flicked towards, there was a picture of is it Bulmer's cider, and it was whatever the summertime flavour is, like it was like pear cider or something like that. And before he could answer, so you've got to remember that this happened a lot quicker than the speed with which I'm explaining it. So Matthew says, same as usual, and I said, he wants a pear cider. And I swear to God, if Chris could have fallen through the floor with shock, he would have done. And he was saying all the swear words. All the swear words came out because he was absolutely stunned. And he was saying, I don't know how you did that. You just read my mind. Now, he didn't know. He didn't consciously know that he'd just looked at the poster. He thought he'd made a decision. He thought that he had consciously made that decision. He hadn't consciously made that decision. The decision was already unconsciously in his mind. It was already there. But he didn't know that. And so he didn't understand how I knew it before he seemed to know it for himself. Can you imagine how shocking that is, to be in a situation like that where someone says the words that you haven't even entirely processed in your own mind yet? So that's what I mean by mind ninjaing. You know, you do learn that stuff. So let me see then. I'm just going to escape out of my slides for a second. Who have I got here? So listening twice is an advanced NLP technique. This is very true, Ian. I want to use NLP to improve my hypnosis skills. Ooh, will you be sending out a recording of this webinar? Yes, I will, Elliot. All right, so Caroline said, I just became an NLP practitioner to complement my life coaching for kids business. I'd like to know how to bring NLP down to a child's level. Well, Caroline, you are talking to the right person because of NLP for kids. I would definitely suggest that you check out some of the NLP for kids webinars. Have a look at the NLP for Kids YouTube channel, because we've done a few webinars actually for NLP for Kids this year. So, stay here, obviously, but also have a look into the NLP for Kids stuff too. I'm here to learn about NLP. I also want to change some of my old beliefs. I work in IT. Welcome, Ravi. Yeah, belief change work is huge in NLP. In fact, let me give you a bit of a I guess like a bit of a heads up as to what my let me click out there a second, what my explanation of NLP is in metaphorical terms. It ties in with beliefs. So some of you here may be contact lens wearers. I am, but today I'm in my glasses. If you are a contact lens wearer, you all know, and certainly if you're not, you can probably guess this to be the case, that when you put your contact lenses in, you don't see your contact lenses and then the world. You just see the world. So you don't actually see the contact lens that's on your eye. You can't see it, even though it's there. So the contact lens is kind of shaping the way that you see the world and how you interact with the world, but you can't see that that's, that it's there. You just know that it's doing it. Your beliefs are the same. Your beliefs work like contact lenses. They shape the way you see the world, but you can't see them. So you don't know that they're there. You just know that they're influencing the way in which you're perceiving things and experiencing things. What we do with NLP, we have a specific strategy for belief change, which I sadly won't have time to share with you today, but we deliver that one on the practitioner course. What we do with NLP is the equivalent of giving you a new set of contact lenses. So it doesn't change the world, but it changes the way you see it. It changes your perception of things, and therefore the world changes for you. Hopefully that makes some sense. All right, so Debo says, to learn more about NLP, as I read a lot of self-development, especially via books, well done. Currently working, another IT person, like to know how to use NLP for self-development and use it to help others as well. Beautiful. I'm a practicing hypnotherapist and psychotherapist. Vernon, I think I know your name. I also, I think did an NLP level 1, so I'm here to see how much more I can incorporate into my business. Fabulous. This is Dana. I'm here for any nuggets of knowledge. We love a nugget of knowledge that can help me be better at negotiation and help me find my life purpose. Wow, that's a bit more of a big mission, Dana. Your life purpose, but I love it. I love that we're on that mission. We've got, again, there is a specific technique in NLP called the NLP negotiation model. Again, it's too big and meaty for me to share it here. We would spend easily a couple of hours playing with that one on an NLP practitioner course, but just know that there is a procedure for that. And then Alexa said, hi Gemma, thanks for running this webinar. You're very welcome. I admit I'm here largely out of curiosity, as NLP is something I've heard of a lot but know little about. Well, you're in the right place. Otherwise, it's partly work related, so you are in leadership and development, coaching people, perfect, and partly personal, so doing a bit more for confident or different approaches in situations. Fab. Well, welcome along everybody. I am going to press on and let's get some of these life missions on the get-go. So I'm going to talk you through this. For me is one of the underpinning techniques. I say technique's the wrong word. I guess it's more of a philosophy. It's quite an attitudinal thing that we go through in NLP, and I cover this, I would say 99.999% of the time with every client I ever work with, whether they're an adult or a child. Obviously, if they're a child, I'm going to be simplifying the language to their correct level. But the reason why I love the NLP communication model so much is because when we first meet with, and I'm talking therapeutically here, but trust me, this applies everywhere. When I meet with a client who has a problem, now we could exchange that particular statement for when I talk to my wife and she has a problem. We could switch that out for when I talk to an employee who has a problem. We're all problem solving, right? We're all working with people with problems to some extent. So just know this applies to you, even if I talk from a therapeutic perspective. When I talk to a client, they believe that the problem is happening to them and that it is outside of their control. Now, those two things are a problem in themselves, because for as long as you believe that this is something that is happening to you, it's kind of coming at you, you are burdened by it, it is inflicted upon you, it's like you don't have control over it. You are not in charge of it, it is in charge of you. So this is incredibly disempowering, and we want to change that mindset so that we can start to change the actions that they're taking. The other thing is that, as well as giving people this sort of sense of personal empowerment, we want them to take responsibility, because even if something very bad is happening to you, and let's face it, guys, life shows up. I could tell you about a gazillion different things that are going on that are very challenging for me right now. So right before I started this webinar, I was visiting my mum in hospital. My mum has a brain disease, and I don't know how much longer she's going to be around for, because she's very poorly. And it's a tragic situation because she developed a brain disease when she was very young, and there is no treatment and there's no cure for it. So in this sort of a situation, I'm either going to be thinking, life's so unfair, I can't believe this is, happening to me and that I'm having to deal with all of this stuff. Or I take a different perspective on things and start to maybe be a bit more pragmatic without being uncaring, but also think, all right, well, what can I do to make sure that she is as happy and comfortable as possible? What can I do to make sure that I am as happy and comfortable as possible? So we've all got our challenges, and it's difficult to sort of pitch them against each other because, I could have a broken arm, but you might be in a full body cast. It doesn't mean that we're not both in pain at some level. So, know that you might hear of somebody else's challenge and sort of, almost sort of go, well, really, that's not that big a deal. Or you might hear someone else's situation and go, oh my God, I have nothing to complain about. This is huge, poor them. We've all got different sorts of pain thresholds, and we've all got different sorts of lives and situations, very, very, very different situations to deal with. And as much as we can, if we can take responsibility for the bits that we can change, and we can change our thinking, and we can change our emotional state, then that is always going to help us to feel a little bit better. And if we feel 25% better today than we did yesterday, you know what, I'll take that 25%, because I know on that basis I can keep growing and I can keep improving. And that principle applies to you too. So anyway, let's talk about the NLP communication model. So here's what we've got. Where it says external event, that just means life. We've all got, like I just said, life going on outside of us. There is always stuff happening. You take that information from life into your 5 senses. You either see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, or feel it. And that is it. That's the only 5 ways you get the information from the outside world, life, to inside your head. Now, as it comes in, your nervous system is getting bombarded with that sensory data. It's very difficult to measure sensory data in something like bits, like computer bits, because your brain isn't exactly a computer, although there are some similarities. The main difference being that when let's say you created a PowerPoint presentation like I have here, if I go back to my PowerPoint presentation in 3 years' time, when I open it up and look at it, it's going to be exactly the same. It will not have changed. Whereas if I have an experience of delivering this webinar, when I go back to this memory in 3 years' time, my memory of it will have changed significantly. And that's because of the way that our brain filters information. So we know that there is somewhere between 2 million to 2 billion bits of information. So as I say, we can't really measure it in bits, but it's the closest analogy I can give you of that sensory data coming in. You cannot process consciously all of that different information. And when I say consciously and unconsciously, I'm not talking about awake or asleep. I'm talking about the difference between you like thinking about it consciously, or it happens for you automatically without you having to think about it. That's your unconscious portion. So the information's coming in through your senses. There is way too much for you to consciously be able to fathom it all out. So your brain filters it. And the very first filter that we use is a filter called deletion. And that quite simply means you get rid of some of it. Some stuff just goes missing. Now, you will have had an experience like this in the past where you've maybe taken your glasses off and then cannot find them, and then discover that they're on top of your head. Or you've put your keys somewhere and for the life of you cannot see them, and then you go to the table and they've been there the whole time. Now, this happens for a couple of different reasons. Sometimes your brain is just filled up. It doesn't have enough space to worry about the keys as well. You're too busy thinking about other things. Sometimes it happens that you will delete information because you have a genuine belief that the keys were not on the table. And if you believe it strongly enough, your beliefs can override your real life experiences. I'm going to say that one more time because it's really important. What you believe can override your real life experience. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It just depends on how you're using it. Imagine using that filter to believe really good stuff and override and delete all of the negative stuff. Like, that's what we're aiming for, isn't it? Because that's the life that we want to live in, is where we see mainly good things happening and we mainly delete all of the useless and negative stuff instead. So this filter of deletion is actually the one that we use the most. And we use it so much it shows up, as they all do, in our language. But in our language, mainly we are deleting. If you think about the conflicts that you may have had with other people, very often they will center from people making up a bit of the story that was missing and making their own assumptions based on what they'd made up. And it's because the full picture hadn't been there. And that's difficult to do, because if you give everyone all of the intricate details, you're going to be there forever. So we just trim it down and we give overviews and kind of quick messages, and so a lot of information ends up getting deleted. All right, our next filter is called distortion. And distortion is all about making things either much better or much worse than they really are. And you do that using your imagination. So if you've ever read a very good book and maybe you got an idea about what the characters look like or how their voices would sound, maybe it made you laugh out loud, maybe it made you cry, you're doing that using this filter of distortion, because when you're reading, all you're really doing is looking at words on a page. You're looking at black characters on a white page. So it's your imagination that brings the rest of it to life and creates like a movie in your mind. And you might even then have the experience of going to the cinema and actually seeing it as a movie. That book that you've read, you actually get to see it in movie form. And then you sit there going, I don't know why they put him in the lead role, because it didn't match up with what you had going in your head when you were reading the book. So this distortion one, again, it's neither good nor bad. It just depends on how you're using it. If you are making good situations seem much better, or being more optimistic and seeing the future as being brighter, then you're using your distorting in a good way. However, human beings are not really designed that way. We're still working with the programming of running away from a saber-toothed tiger, which means that we still have a tendency to think worst case scenario, and it is an effort. Like, we actually have to put in effort to reprogram ourselves to think in a different way. And that's really where the programming part of NLP comes in. By the way, the neuro part relates to your brain and your thinking, which is why I'm doing the communication model. All right, so then generalizing. Generalizing is one that's very easy to spot in our language, because it's when we are using words like everybody, always, never, all the time. And really what we're doing is, it's for speed. We're chunking a load of stuff together and saying in some way, all of this stuff is the same. Now, again, it's neither good nor bad, depends on how you're using it. But I believe that we have started to generalize more over time. And I say this in part because a friend of mine studied, I say a friend of mine, she is now a friend, but she actually started out as a client. She studied classics at Oxford. And so she was very well read. And she'd read a book called Clarissa, which is the longest, or one of the longest novels in the English language. And I remember her saying that some sentences in that book would maybe be 4 or 5 lines long. And it wasn't because the text was big. It was because the author was really telling you how to think and what to picture in your mind. It was very, very detailed. And she compared it to a free book that she'd got with a magazine. And she said some of those sentences were 3 words long. They were much more ambiguous. They gave you much more room to come up with your own assumptions. Now, in some ways, from a reading perspective, that's quite nice, perhaps, you know, to sort of be able to utilize your own imagination instead of being directed and led by the author. But it's not good from a communication perspective with other people. We don't want to leave people making assumptions. We want to give them all of the information to really guide them and direct them in the best possible way, particularly for those of you that are talking about leadership and management, for example. That's a very important thing to do. Generalizations are also useful for us to know about because they help us with learning. So when you make a generalization that's something new to you, is similar to something you know already, it makes learning happen much more quickly and much more easily. So that's a good thing. And the other important thing to say about generalizations is that, going back to the belief stuff, these will shape your beliefs. So if you repeatedly make a similar generalization, it will shape your belief. If you have a conversation with yourself where you regularly say, I always put on weight after Christmas. What happens after Christmas is you are faced with the cake or whatever it may be, and instead of making a better decision, your brain thinks, well, I might as well, because I always put on weight anyway. There's no point in even trying something different. And that always kind of then latches onto that reaction that you have. You know, the two things become intertwined, the belief is formed, and then you start to you get caught in that sort of catch-22. It's like you can't break out of it, and it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. All right, so we've got our external event, information coming in. By the way, if you've got questions and stuff, like ping them over and I will address them. So life's coming in, we distort some of it, delete most of it, and make generalizations, so assumptions about certain aspects of it. That leaves us with approximately 7 bits of information. So from millions of bits of sensory data coming in, you're left with about 7 things that you can actively think about and focus on. We say 7 because it's between 5 and 9, so 7's going to be your lucky number as the average. In NLP terms, we call that thinking and focus combined an internal representation. So it's actually better said as an internal, meaning inside, representation, because you are representing to yourself the stuff that you got from the outside world. So remember, there is tons of stuff going on out there. You know, if you look around the room that you're in at the moment, there's a lot of stuff going on in this room. Even if nothing else is moving or alive, there's still stuff going on in this room. You know, all of the colour, the other sounds, the little particles of dust that are floating around. There's a lot going on out there. But you've just got a little slither of it, just a tiny amount that's then left to focus on. And that thinking and focus, that internal representation, will affect your state, which is your emotional state, so how you feel about it. And that emotional state will affect your physiology, so how you end up using your physical body is going to be influenced by your emotional state. This is why people that are depressed are very often like head down, looking down, slouched, curled up. That emotional state of depression kind of wants your body to sort of shrink down. Or perhaps, someone who is in a very joyful, happy state, we might see that they've got this very open posture, shoulders back, head up, eyes darting around, looking up because they're being very creative in their mind. So our physical state is influenced by our mental state and our emotional state. Now you can see there's interlinking arrows here, and that's just to demonstrate that you don't have to work on all three of these areas. When you change one of them, it's going to have an impact on the other two. This is good news for you as an NLP practitioner, because when you come to interact with others using these skills, or to use these skills on yourself, you don't have to go like the whole 9 yards. It's not everything in the kitchen sink here. You just need to do a something that's going to change your thinking, or a something that's going to work on your emotional state, or as something that changes your physiology. And if you work on any one of those three areas, it will impact positively on the other two. So that's all stuff that's going on inside your head. You cannot stay inside your head all the time, because if you do, then the mental health team start to get involved. So you have to start interacting back out in the outside world again, and you do that by behaving or reacting in a particular way. So again, behaviour or reaction might be sort of associated to more negative things. They're not. It could be a good behaviour, could be a bad one, could be a positive reaction, could be a negative one. So we're going to be behaving and reacting back in the outside world, and that will lead us to a result. Now that could be a good result, or it could be a shockingly bad result, but you are still going to experience a result at the end of all of this. You'll then observe your result. You'll take the information back in as another external event, and it will go back through the system. Now you tell me, how quickly do you think all of that I've just described to you, which probably took me 15 minutes, how quickly do you think that system operates? Send me over your guesses right now. I want to know how quickly you think you work through that system. And as you send that over, I'm just going to put this into a context for you. So this person here has said, I never feel confident enough. Now we could substitute that for anything. I never feel happy enough. I never feel fulfilled enough. It doesn't even have to end in enough. It doesn't even have to have never in there. It could be any kind of statement. So if we were to take that and say, well, what's this person deleting? They're going to be deleting the times in the past when they were confident. Now, confidence is very subjective. You have to be somewhat confident to walk to the shops and buy some milk because of all of the different risks that there are associated with going into the outside world. But you equally need to have a perhaps slightly different level of confidence to be able to host a webinar or to be able to stand on stage. So this person, whatever level of confidence it is that they're referring to, is going to be deleting the times in the past when they've had, a reasonable amount of confidence to just do day-to-day living. They are perhaps distorting the meaning of confidence, what that means to them, or what it means they would be able to do. Perhaps they are shrinking down the times when they were confident and making them seem less significant and less important. Perhaps they are overinflating the times when they have reacted badly and become very anxious and panicky. And the generalizations, well, we can see one, it's never. Like never? Never ever? We would definitely want to be questioning that. So the way this person is left to think and focus, once they've gone through that filtering system, out of the 2 million bits that life could have possibly offered them, the 7 bits they've got left over are not going to be the best 7 bits, are they? So the impact of this on their emotional state is they're going to feel a bit crappy about themselves, but mainly they're not going to be feeling very confident. So then there's going to be an effect on their physical body. What sort of physiology might we see in someone who doesn't have much confidence? It's perhaps going to be certain things that go with that. Maybe it's even internal, like the heart's racing a little bit, or they start to feel a bit nauseous. Then they're going to behave and react in a very specific way because of that, because of how they're thinking, feeling, focusing, etc. And then they're going to react in a particular way because of that. So the result that they get isn't going to be a great result. It's certainly not going to disprove their theory. And then they see that result, take that information in, and it goes back through the cycle again. All right, so I was asking you, wasn't I, how quickly do you think that system runs? Let me see what your guesses were. Sorry to burp you, Mum. Oh, bless you. That's very kind of you. I currently work in school and I'm considering my options for working with children therapeutically. Love that, Odell. Not sure if I should train as a play therapist or if NLP for kids is the route I want to go down. So I'm here to get a bit of an insight into the world of NLP. Perfect. All right. So welcome, Odell, by the way. I'm aware now there's a couple of you here, as I guess there might be, who are interested in NLP for kids. It's a completely different company. And it runs different training, obviously. However, let me just let you know at this junction, just as a heads up, if you do the NLP practitioner training with people building, that training is for grown-ups. But we actually give it to you for free when you do NLP for kids training. There is a price difference between the two of them. So if you were to do the NLP practitioner training with people building, and then later decided to go for NLP for kids, NLP for kids will discount you the amount that you paid for your people building training. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll just say it one more time. So if you're here because you're interested in NLP for kids, know that if you do NLP for kids training, you get people building NLP practitioner training included as a free gift. So if you perhaps, just because of the pricing difference, thought, don't want to do NLP for kids yet, I'm kind of interested in doing the NLP practitioner course with people building though, and then a year later you go, oh, now I'd really like to do NLP for kids, we'll discount you what you've already paid to people building. All right, so basically you won't end up paying any more. Ian says 2 seconds to go through that washing machine cycle of going through your head. I haven't had any more guesses in though. Well, Ian, I mean, you're going to win it because no one else has given any suggestions. I don't know if it's because I've just blown all your minds. Maybe that's why. What I will tell you is it's more like milliseconds. All right, you go through this faster than I'm able to show you on the slideshow. It's super quick and it happens continuously. All right, certainly during your waking hours, this is running all the time. Now, there is a spin-off to these 3 areas here. So where we've got our internal representation, remember that's our thinking and focus, our emotional state and our physiology, there is something else that ties these 3 together. And that's something else. I'm going to tell you what it is after I've had a little sip of 7-Up. Hang on. All right, that something else is the linguistics. So this is where our language comes in. You are talking to yourself inside your head all the bloody time. Now, if there was a part of you that just thought, what does she mean I'm talking to myself all the bloody time? That's the voice that I'm talking about, the one that you just asked yourself that question with. So we all have some form of inner voice. For some of us, like me, we've got to the stage where I'm actually having a conversation with myself a good proportion of the time, and there's a whole internal dialogue going on in there with sometimes quite different little characters that might be showing up. For others, they're just not aware that that's happening, and they maybe just think it's just their thinking happening, but you have got some form of internal voice going on in there. And I'm going to give you some frames here that are going to help you to have a positive interaction with that internal voice, because if you have some kind of inner thought, I'm going to call it an inner voice if that's okay. If you have one that tells you you're not good enough, if you have one that tells you you're not going to be successful at that, if you have one that just swears at you when you do stuff wrong, it's going to leave you feeling a certain kind of way. and that is not going to make you feel good. And most of all, it's going to leave you feeling out of rapport with yourself, and it's going to cause you to have some, real discomfort in your own mental well-being. Now, this is an ongoing piece of work, if you like. When you learn the strategies, life gets so much easier. In addition, you also continue working at it. I can't honestly say to you, after the years of doing NLP, I'm now perfect, because life keeps on being challenging. So this inner dialogue keeps cropping up, and some days it's more useful than others. But the important thing is to know what you're working with. So let me give you some hints and tips here. So following on from our little curvy bracket that we had on our previous slide, let me talk to you about how we may be conversing with ourselves. I'm going to test something on you. You're going to need to interact at this point, people, so be ready to type me some answers. If I said to you, solving your problem will be hard, I want you to notice how that sentence I just said makes you think and feel. Solving your problem is going to be hard. Right, just tune into yourself. Notice how it makes you think and feel. Now compare it to this one. Solving your problem is not going to be easy. All right, it's not going to be easy. Solving your problem is not going to be easy. What is the difference for you between it's going to be hard versus it's not going to be easy? Send me over your responses. Now, what I will say is most people prefer it to be, it's not going to be easy, because it's got the word easy in it. And there's something else around the not, which I'll come to in just a moment. But most people prefer it that way, but not everyone, and that's okay. The most important thing you need to know from this is what works for you. Because if you tell yourself, I've got a project to do and this is going to be hard, and that motivates you, go for it. Work with that. But if it puts you off and it makes you not want to do the project, then you need to be going with the not easy option instead. This is about getting to know yourself. In the same way, it's going to come up in just a second. It's going to say, would you rather have a problem or a challenge? Would you rather have a problem or a challenge? Think about that one. Let me know. Do you want a problem or do you want a challenge? For me personally, I prefer a challenge because it sounds like there might be zip wires involved, whereas problems to me sound painful. Sounds to me like I'm going to be, firefighting, putting out problems, but I don't get a reward at the end of it, whereas a challenge feels like there might be a prize. So I prefer a challenge over a problem, and it's similar to the hard versus not easy. Which one would you rather have? It's about knowing what motivates you. And then we can start thinking about, I wonder what motivates that other person that I'm interacting with. Maybe I can start to influence their results by talking to them in a way that fits in with who they are. So speaking about fitting in with who they are, let me mention meta-programs. Meta-programs are something that we use on NLP Master Practitioner training. So there's a few levels of training to NLP. Practitioner is typically a baseline. Then we go Master Practitioner, then we go Trainer, and then we go Master Trainer. So on the NLP Master Practitioner, which is like your level 2, we learn something called meta programs. They're a little bit like Myers-Briggs, if you're familiar with Myers-Briggs at all. And it's a questionnaire really that you can go through to help establish how someone thinks. We're not really interested in the content, to be quite honest. We don't want to know what they're thinking. We want to know how they're thinking so that we can start to motivate them or ourselves more easily. So one of the meta programs, I'll give you a couple of examples. One of them is whether you are mainly a toward or an away from project, or toward or away from person. So the way in which we might establish that is by asking you a question whereby you've got a few different options as to what you can respond with. Now, I will just say meta programs are context dependent, which means that they can change. You might have different meta programs when you're at work compared to when you're at home. So we're always going to be thinking about, well, what's the scenario that we're asking about? Now, if we were talking about a work scenario, and let's just say for a moment I was your boss, I could say to you, you've got a choice here. Tell me which option you fancy the most. Either you need to finish this project because if you don't, you will get a disciplinary. Or you need to finish this project because when you do, you will get a bonus. So one of those is towards, one of those is away from. Your away from is the one that makes you want to run away from it, and that is you're going to get a disciplinary. All right, so that's the bad one, if you like. The toward one is more like the carrot versus the carrot and the stick, and that's going to be you will get a bonus. So you want to move towards it. Now, this doesn't mean that you think in a good or a bad way. It's just about how you're motivated. Very often, I'll be honest, I'm an away from person. I get more motivated by running away from something than I do about all of the good, the gold shiny things that could be up there in front of me. That doesn't motivate me quite so much. Some people are more balanced and they need a little bit of both. So I need you to do that project so that you don't get a disciplinary and you do get yourself a bonus. So that's where it's like the best of both worlds. So, you can start asking yourself, am I more of a toward or an away from person? And then if you've got someone that is regularly given the job of motivating you, maybe tell them how to do it. Like, how's the best way to do that for you to make you feel like you want to move forward with your life? Another meta program that we use can be used to, and this is the mind injury stuff, if I'm quite honest. This one can be used to help you figure out how long someone is going to commit to something, be that a relationship, be that a job. So particularly in career, this one can be quite helpful. So you can see on the screen we've got 3 10-pence pieces. And the question we ask is, what's the relationship between these 3 coins? And it causes the person to think about either how they are similar, how they are different, or how they are similar with mainly differences, or mainly different with similarities. And depending on which answer they go with, you can predict how long they are going to commit to something. So someone who looks at these 3 coins and says that they are vastly different, one of them is almost upside down, one of them is turned over. So someone who just points out the differences, they're going to stick to a commitment for 6 months tops. Someone who looks at these 3 coins and says they're all exactly the same, they're all 10-pence pieces, those are your people that are going to stick around for years. All right, like I said, proper mind injuring stuff here. Problem versus challenge, I already told you about. Try. All right, let me try something with you. So in fact, before I do the try, let me check in on your hard versus not easy. What did you come up with? Oh, well done, Elliot. You said 1/10 of a second. Yeah, you're probably a lot closer than Ian was. Elliot says he would like depressed versus challenge resolved. Yeah, I think those two are quite, for me, I think they're quite vastly different, because I don't think I would say I feel depressed and then substitute that with I feel like my challenge is resolved. I think I could potentially substitute it with I'm working on resolving my challenge. Maybe that's where we're going with it. First is heavy, second is lighter. So that was on the hard versus not easy. First one is like a brick. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it feels like a brick wall. That's very often how I describe it. Hard sounds near enough impossible. Not easy infers, but you can do this. Yes, if you put your mind to it. We prefer a challenge over a problem, all right? It's not going to be easy is preferred, as I hear that there is a slim chance that some part could be easy and where to start from. Nice, Dana. Challenge, of course. Ravi's like, yeah, of course. But you know what the thing is how often do you hear people using the word problem? How often do you hear people say, yeah, it's really hard. It's hard. Life's hard. Oh, Matt, now I've said it to you, it's going to drive you nuts, because you're going to be hearing it and going, well, it's not easy. Problem feels like it's a hard blow. Yeah, The word hard conjures up a difficult time ahead. Not easy gives a bit more hope, 100%. Challenge gives you an option to come up with solutions. Bonus is pleasant. Disciplinary is like a fear-induced resolution. Yeah, but you know what, Dana? For some people, that's what they need. I know it sounds crazy. Solution, yeah, that's nice word, Vernon. I definitely prefer challenge. Been a long day. It's been a challenging day, Odell. That's what you mean. All right, good. So let me talk you through this next one then. The word try. So the word try, again, it's not, this isn't going to be applicable to everyone, but for most of you, like on the most part. So even if this is something where you go, oh, that didn't work for me, it's still important for you to know about it because it might be relevant for the other people in your life that you're interacting with. Now, this little word try, you know, what was that saying you always used to hear when you were younger? If at first you don't succeed, try again. Don't. Trying is lying. The only way I can really explain this to you is via an example. So if it is appropriate for you to do so, please don't do this if you're driving. If it's appropriate for you to do so, I would like you just to close your eyes. All right, I'm not going to hypnotize you, I promise. Just a little mind test. So I want you to just close your eyes and I want you to see in your imagination, I want you to see a door. All right, you can notice what the color of the door is. And then in your imagination, I want you to open the door. All right, off you go, open the door. And I'm going to assume that you've done it. You've got that door open, all right? Open your eyes, close your eyes again. And I want you to see in your imagination a door. Now, it can be the same door, it can be a totally different door. I really don't care. The main thing is I want you to notice the colour of the door again. All right, so just notice the door in front of you. Now this time I want you to try and open the door. All right, just try and open it. And if you can do it, then you can open your eyes. Keep trying. Come on, give it a really good try. All right, now what I want to know is who found it more difficult or it took you longer to open the second door versus opening the first door. So did you find the second door for some reason was just, even though it may even have been exactly the same door, it just didn't open as easily and successfully as the first door did? Let me know in the comments so that I can find out. Now, like I said, you might have gone, both doors were exactly the same. It took me just as much time to open the second door as it did the first door. I don't know what she's talking about. That's fine. But trust me, in just a moment, you're going to hear what happened for everybody else, and then you'll know why this is important. I'm going to come back to that one. Let me tell you about some others. So another thing to know about is something called your reticular activating system. It's a part of your brain at the back. And the job of that part of your brain is to work like a radar, so that whatever you think about and focus on, it's going to bring it into your attention. However, it doesn't know whether what you're thinking about is good for you or bad for you. It just knows that you're thinking about it. It means that it doesn't necessarily understand negation. So if you were to tell yourself, I don't know, what's something I might end up saying to myself tomorrow? I don't want to get distracted today. So if I woke up tomorrow morning, I was like, right, don't want to get distracted today. Have to focus, don't want to get distracted. No distractions today. What my Raz hears is a conversation about getting distracted. So it's going to bring into my focus all of the information that I need to be able to get distracted. It's going to be going, here's some more, here's another one, here's another little distraction. And it's going to make my day very challenging for me. So what we have to do is, now this isn't just positive thinking. Like, please don't think that that's all NLP is about. Because I can tell you now, when you work with me, sometimes the language is very direct, and sometimes it's about having a really serious word with yourself and calling yourself to a higher standard. So this is why I like to say, you know, my NLP is not fluffy, but we do need to make sure we're programming ourselves in a way that gets us focusing on what we want and not what we don't want. So your conversations with yourself need to be about what you want and not what you want to avoid. If you do not want to eat chocolate, then you don't say to yourself, I mustn't eat chocolate today. Don't eat any chocolate today. Because what you're focusing on is chocolate. What you would say is, I'm going to be healthy today. I want to be healthy today. I'm looking forward to healthy food today. That's how you program yourself in the right way. We can also look at things like chaining words together so that we start to minimize the impact of negative, either outside world conversation with other humans or inside our head with ourselves. So I noticed the other day that I was in a rush, and my cat, who some of you might have heard about if you were here early, my cat was being particularly annoying and wanted feeding, and so I was trying to feed him, but I was trying to like wash his bowl up at the same time, and he was getting very challenging, and I was in a rush. And I'd emptied the bowl of water out before realising there was something else that needed to be washed up. And I caught my inner voice saying, now we'll need to fill a whole entire bowl of water all over again. I mean, that's a lot of words. And I stopped myself and I went, just got to fill the bowl back up. But that's it. Now, when I talked to myself with all of those words, it made me feel a certain kind of intense way. It made me feel even more panicked. So sometimes we just need to sort of break things down a little bit. And it's the difference really between saying, I am pissed off, which will cause you to feel a certain kind of way, telling yourself that will support you having a certain sort of feeling, to changing that to, I am tinkled. You know, tinkled kind of means the same thing anyway. But how much lower level in intensity is that word? And you can maybe even chunk it down a level from there, where we go from tinkle to, I don't know, soggy. It doesn't always need to be in the same vein, but it could be. So that's where we kind of chain one word to a word which is similar, but is not as intense, and so it can change our feelings in that way. Dissociated language is when we start to spot, now this is very appropriate for when you're working with others, that they are shifting pain. So something that they dislike, something they're uncomfortable about, they start shifting it onto you instead of onto themselves. So a good example of this was something that one of my trainers gave me. He said he was with a friend and they were watching a boxing match. And his friend said, I wouldn't want to be in the ring with that guy because he'd hit you and punch you and knock your lights out. Now let's just recap on what was said. So the friend, let's call him John. John said, I, John, wouldn't want to be in the ring with that guy. So what John has just done is John has, in his imagination, put himself in the ring with that guy, like imagining what that would be like. Then he dissociates and says, because he'd hit you and punch you and knock your lights out. So my friend Chris says to him, why would he hit me and punch me and knock my lights out? You're the one that got in the ring with the guy. Now, it doesn't have to be physical pain. Sometimes it's emotional pain, where you hear someone switch from talking about the issue as being their own, because it is, to then saying, well, you know what it's like when you feel this way. You know what it's like when you have people talk to you like that. And what that does is it takes them away from the pain, but it dumps it all on you. And at an unconscious level, you start trying it on. You start going, yeah, how would I feel about that? And you're not necessarily having that conversation consciously with your inner voice. Your unconscious is going to take care of it for you, which is very unhelpful in this occasion, because you're going to start kind of putting yourself into that situation that they're talking about, and it was never your problem to begin with. So we want to be watching out for stuff like that and knowing how to tackle it. Modal operators, these are your words like could, couldn't, should, shouldn't, would, wouldn't. These tell us about someone's motivation levels. They are very, very useful. There is a big difference between me saying, I should get my Christmas shopping done, versus I can see if I'll get the Christmas shopping done, versus I would get the Christmas shopping done versus I will get the Christmas shopping done. What you learn in NLP is how to very quickly pick up on that language so that you can challenge it. If that person's motivation isn't where you want it to be, then you want to start switching that, either by challenging it or by feeding back to them in a way where you take them on a journey with those modal operators and respond with something like, so you should be getting the Christmas shopping done, and I know that you can do it on Saturday because you've got some time then, so what time will you go? So we've gone from a should to a can to a will, so that we've taken them, again, it's like chaining them step by step, so it's not too big a jump from where they are to where we want to get them to. And we also look at using time in our language in NLP as well, because again, there's going to be a big difference between what you felt in the past, what you're feeling in the present, what you might be feeling in the future. Sometimes we notice that people are very good at talking about their problems as if they are happening right now when they're actually not, or they talk about the expectation of the problem being there in the future when it doesn't need to be. So what we start to learn as a practitioner is how to move problems so that we talk about them in the past without letting people feel like we didn't hear them or that we were disregarding what they were saying. So time in our language is important too. I want to see what happened to you with the try experiment. Let me check in on that one now. Yes, I agree. Try holds the possibility of failure. Oh, do you know what? That's got a bit of a ring to it, Robert Lowe. Second door took longer, didn't open on the try. Second door definitely took longer. I ignored the word try and the door opened the same. Oh, well, you just bypassed it there, Vernon, because you were listening out for it. Second door does take longer to open. I didn't have any success with the second door. Welcome along. Now, I'm going to say this wrong, I think. Is it Giorgio, something like that, maybe? Second door was easier to open in real life. However, when I closed my eyes and tried it, I wondered if I wanted to open and I was unsure. Reminds me of the don't think of pink elephants. Exactly right. Yeah, you're on the money. The use of the word try made it seem like there is a possibility it may not open. All right, and both doors for Ian opened the same. All right, so like I said, maybe for you the second door was easier. Maybe they did both open the same. But you can tell now from me having read that feedback, for most people, that word try is a problem. And so even if it's not a problem for you, you need to know about it, because working on the assumption that you're dealing with other people in life, then you're going to need to work around them. All right, so let's talk about the programming aspect of NLP. So we've done a bit on the neuro side. We've done a bit on the linguistic side. Let's talk about programming. There is a process that we use in NLP. I say a process. This is like a chunk. On the practitioner course, we probably spend 2 days working on something called submodalities. So that is the coding that you have in your mind that relates to your memories and your experiences. It's the finer details. So we know that you are a sensory being, but what we also know is that your senses can also be broken down into smaller categories. So vision, for example, is made up of whether you see things in black and white or colour, whether you imagine a memory as being like big and bold and up close to you or far away and in the distance. So all of these things will affect the way that you sort of remember and experience things. And it's just the detailing around your 5 senses. So we've got lots of techniques within NLP practitioner that tie in with your submodalities. And they are some of my favourite processes. They're my favourite because of the way in which they will create rapid change for you. So I'm talking super quick change. Super quick changes in how you think, super quick changes in your emotional state. Let me give you a little, like a real kind of whistle stop example of what I'm saying here. So we have on the screen here a very angry looking man. We've all met this man in some way, shape or form at some stage in our lives. Perhaps for you, this man was your dad. Perhaps for you, this man was your husband. Maybe it was your brother. Maybe it's your boss. Maybe it's you. I hope it isn't, but it might be, that's the reality. Now, when we see this kind of a picture on the screen / memory in our mind, it's likely going to be linked to some certain sorts of emotions about what that situation was. So when I look at this picture of this angry man, to me, it's not necessarily about the fact that it was a man. Actually, for me, it's an old boss who was a woman. And so there are certain emotions that certainly in the past, I would revert back to feeling those feelings whenever I thought back to the situation that I had with that particular boss. And those feelings were so entrenched in me, they were so strong that even after I'd left that job, and I knew that I was never going to see this woman again, I was reminded of her because I saw someone who had a similar form and a similar haircut from the back in a place where I knew she wouldn't be, so I knew it wasn't her. But that reminder caused me to go back into those feelings that I had where I had this very negative situation with her that looked a lot like the man on the screen at the moment. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we've all had a something. It doesn't have to be a shouty man, but we've all had a something that's happened in the past that's kind of left us with a bit of a hangover, and most of the time you ignore it and you don't think about it, but every now and again there might be a reminder or a little trigger that takes you back to that place. We want to work on those things so that you don't have to worry about that hangover just bringing up its ugly head again one day. We want to get rid of those things so that you can put your time and energy into feeling better feelings instead of suppressing old ones that are not good for you anymore. So this is where submodalities come in. This is where submodalities really have their power, is being able to change those sorts of memories and experiences by changing the coding, so our sensory coding that we have associated to them. Now let me do something with Angry Man. Watch your screen. Whoa, did you get that? Now, if Angry Man represents something for you, or a someone for you, or an event from the past, that's going to have caused you to feel a certain kind of way. I'm going to run it one more time. It was bad enough when he was here, but notice what happens to you. It's going to be a feeling somewhere between your tummy and your chest at a guess. That's probably where the feeling's going to be. There might be a thought in your head as well, so you might think it feels like something in your head, but that's probably a conscious thought that you're thinking. Right, one more time. So we have that. Now that is a shift in your submodalities. It's just not a good one. When we bring it closer, make it bolder, make it vibrate in that way, it most likely made you feel worse. Not necessarily for everyone. Like we said, everyone is different. It's about knowing what works for you. But for most of you, that's going to have caused you to feel a certain kind of negative way. So now let's do this. And notice how that makes you feel differently about him. Now he's significantly smaller. And then what about if I do that? He's still there. So the memory is still there. We didn't erase your memory. You've still got a memory of that experience, but how significant is it now? How, you can tell me, how does it change your feelings? Now, when I say feelings, it doesn't have to be that you can pinpoint exactly what the name of that feeling is. We could just go with better or worse. We could just go with, it feels like it's significant versus insignificant. And that probably would be the right labeling for me personally. When he is here doing this, he feels a lot more significant. And if this were a troubling memory, I don't want that to be significant to me. If it were a troubling memory, I want it to be more like that, so that it feels less significant to me. Doesn't wipe my memory, it just means that I don't have to put so much focus and emotional energy into that anymore. All right, so that's your programming part. Now, I'm conscious of time, so let me tell you some other bits and pieces that you might want to know about in respect of training in NLP. and you know what other opportunities there are available for you with that. As you know, I'm a trainer of NLP, and I teach people to become NLP practitioners amongst lots of other things. And as an NLP practitioner, you can then work with others as an NLP coach or an NLP therapist, depending on how you want to term it. That may be in your current role in IT or accounting, for example, where you are simply looking for ways to interact better with other people. Maybe because you're in a leadership and management type of scenario, so you want to be able to motivate and lead others more effectively. Maybe you're just here for the personal development, like we said earlier. And I'm actually going to sort of address that in just a moment and how NLP fits in with it. When you learn something like NLP, it's going to give you the skills to motivate others. All right, so you probably have got the gist of that from what I've said already. You're going to learn stuff on an NLP training that helps you with motivating others. You're also going to learn how to think better. As I said earlier, this isn't just, woo woo, let's think positively, it's all going to be rainbows and unicorns. It's not that. This is about having better quality thoughts, and sometimes the better quality thoughts comes from telling yourself to shut the F up. Sometimes that's what it takes. You know, sometimes we need to be tough with ourselves. That doesn't mean we're thinking negatively, it means we're taking ourselves in a better direction. So we want to have better quality thinking. There is someone in my office who has worked with me for a year as an admin assistant. She's actually my personal assistant. And back in September, she did the 7-day NLP practitioner course with people building because she wanted to do some personal development. Now, I said to her today, because I needed an extra thing to add to my slides, I said, as someone who's been through NLP training with me, what does it do for you? And she said, it's good for personal development. And I said, I know that, but that's just like such, you know what, that terminology is thrown around a lot. What did it mean for you? What was that personal development that you experienced? And she said, I've got far less problems because I dealt with all of them during the 7 days that we were on the training. And this is someone who has not been without her challenges in life. So I think that's a sort of very credible testimonial in a way. But the other thing that she said that I thought was important to let you know about is she said the other main learning from it is, as well as having far less problems, I feel better equipped to cope with the ones that will come up in the future because I'll have different ways to do that now. And I think that's the key thing. You know, I am not promising you that you will not have problems as a result of doing NLP training. And if anyone tells you that, because some NLP trainers will, if they tell you that, they are lying. Do not spend your money or your time with those people. Don't. NLP will not prevent you from getting problems in the future. It can make you better equipped to cope with them. All right? And that's a good thing. And when I say cope with them, even that makes it a little bit low key. You know, I'm erring on the side of caution by saying cope with them. You'll actually feel equipped to take control, challenge situations in a meaningful way, and get yourself feeling good pretty damn quick. That's really what it's going to do for you. It's going to help you with managing others because you're going to learn stuff about rapport building and communication and how to deal with people's personal quirks. This one is from me. You will become a problem solver. And I love that. Like, I think that is the best gift that NLP has personally given me. I am far more resilient. I am far more robust. I do not give up. Unless, you know, it's time. I think sometimes giving up is the right thing to do, but when I do, it's not because I've got frustrated, it's because it was the right decision to make. I'm a damn fine problem solver, and sometimes that makes other people in my life lazy, and I have to teach them to become good problem solvers and to be excited about doing that so that I don't end up solving everybody else's problems. But for me, on a personal level, that's been the best thing that I've gotten out of being trained in NLP. And improving my emotional state, I would go with that one as well. Happiness is something you need to work at, Positivity is something that requires effort. You need to know the strategies to be able to do that effectively for yourself. I also feel that as a result of learning NLP, it makes you more creative, and it ties in with the problem solving, because you end up getting hungry to find the right way forward. And what we do in NLP training is you learn specific techniques. You learn them by script. So on a practitioner course, and I've got other stuff to talk to you about, but I'm going to use the practitioner course as an example because it is like your staple NLP diet, if you like. When you do a practitioner course, the format is as follows. I will talk you through a technique, and that will be why we're using it, how we do it, when we would do it, what challenges you're going to get from it, the sort of the skeleton, if you like. Then I will demonstrate it to you using someone that's on the training. So some of you are going to get to actually get some live one-on-one NLP with me as a result of being the demo subject. Then we go back through it as a group and say, what did we just do there? Did Gemma follow the script, or did she go a little off-piste? And then you work with someone else and you do the process with them, with you being the practitioner and with you being the recipient. So you always get to do both. You always do both ways around. Now, where I say you get more creative is because on the practitioner course, you will be following scripts, but you also learn that sometimes to get the right result, you need to go a little bit off script. And so it forces you to sort of get tuned into that creative thinking part of your brain. So I've mentioned the practitioner course quite a lot. It is not the only thing that I'm offering to you, but I just, I want to mention it to you because I also really love teaching this course as well, if you didn't get that already. So the practitioner training is an accredited training. This is run by an accredited trainer, namely me. With our practitioner training, when you train with us, we also get you 3 months professional level membership with the ANLP, so the Association of NLP. You can keep it going after that if you want to, you don't have to, but it basically, that is your benchmark for professionalism within the field, and so we will get you completely signed up with them for 3 months. You get a full home study kit, which comprises of a physical manual that's sent out to you in the post, so it's not just digital stuff. You get 6 CDs to listen to, and we can send those to you in a digital format if it makes life easier for iPods, etc. And it all comes to you in a beautiful manual. There is a test paper that goes with that. You do your test paper prior to the training. It's an open book test, so all of the answers are in the manual and on the CDs that I just told you about. You then send your test paper back to me. I mark your test paper for free. I will send it back to you. If there's adjustments that are needed, you'll send it back to me again. We'll do a little bit of back and forth as many times as we need to. And I do that for free for you. All right. Your certification fees are all included. So you'll get 2 certificates on the prac course, one from People Building to say that you are an accredited NLP practitioner, and you'll also get your one from the ANLP as well. All your certification fees are included. You will also receive lifetime membership of the People Building Members Club at no additional cost. All right, so I told you about Members Club earlier. This is like your monthly little kick up the backside to put you into a good headspace. You will get lifetime membership for free. And that's only with the practitioner course. So this one is a 7-day training. So I appreciate this isn't going to be for everyone. So I'm letting you know about like the Whopper first, and then I'll tell you what else is on offer. So the 7 days live training is in an accelerated learning format. It starts on a Saturday. It finishes on a Friday. It is a 9 till 6 day. This is intense. You will, by that stage, have already done all of your home study and your test paper. So you will have invested somewhere between 15 to maybe 50, maybe up to 80 hours into learning about NLP via the home study. And then you'll be on the live training. So it means that when you come into the classroom, you've already got a pretty good idea of what you're dealing with. Our training venue is in Hemel Hempstead, which if you're not from Hemel Hempstead, you may have never heard of it. Might sound like it's like millions of miles away. It's on the train line from London Euston. So if you're in London, you get to Euston, then you get to Hemel. There's no changes required. It's on the Northern Line rail network, not the Underground, but the Northern Line rail network. We're at junction 21 of the M25, junction 8 of the M1, and we are on the A41. This is an easy place to get to, which unfortunately makes the house prices really expensive, but that's a whole other story. So yeah, it's an easy place to get to. Our next training is now next year, obviously. So the first training that we have coming up, the first option for you is the 15th, so Saturday the 15th until Friday the 21st of February. Or we've then got the training running again in September, so that one will be out of term time. 15th to the 21st for most of you is going to be half term. So the next one after that will be the 5th until the 11th of September. So both of those are 7-day trainings running from a Saturday until a Friday. And here is just some of what gets covered in those 7 days. I'm not going to read through all of this, don't worry. This is all on our website, by the way, if you wanted a bit more of a breakdown of things and what's included. I've bolded out some particular ones here that I think are important for you to know about, not just because they're some of the more, not necessarily more important elements, but they're just more important to me. There's some of the bits that I really like doing. So what I've done with these parts that I particularly like teaching is I've also put those into a 1-day introductory training. All right, so if you cannot make the 7 days live training because you just haven't got 7 days spare, or you cannot make the February or September dates, you can come along and do an intro day with me. And on the intro day, we will be covering stuff around the mind-body connection, the NLP presuppositions. So these are kind of statements, beliefs, if you like, that are quite useful to abide your life by, but some of them are quite challenging. So we have like a whole debate around those as well. We will do the rapport building techniques, and I will teach you some stuff around sensory acuity. So that whole kind of body language stuff, like I said, noticing the little twitch in someone's eye, the little micro movements. We'll be doing some of that on the training as well. We will be using a process called anchoring, which is particularly helpful for getting you into a positive emotional state. We will be looking at more around the filtering. So it'll be a bit of a recap and a bit more in depth on that communication model we've looked at tonight. And we will also look at people's sensory preferences. Some people have a leaning towards one of their senses over the others when they are learning or processing information. So I, for example, am a very visual person. So we'll do the test so that you can establish what you are and therefore how you're going to take information in best. So that's what shows up on the intro day. Just those bits that are on the screen right now in bold that I have just read out to you. If you do the 7-day course, all of that you can see on the screen right now is in the 7-day NLP practitioner course. It is a big course. It is bags of fun. We have wonderful people that come onto our training and do wonderful, wonderful things with it thereafter. So you're going to be in a room of like-minded, motivated people, and it's a safe environment. So, you're going to be with people who are incredibly supportive and who, like you, want to sort out some bits and pieces in their brain, have a bit of a declutter. If you cannot make it to the 7-day training, I will be sad. But there is the 1-day intro course, which includes all of the bits that were on bold on the other screen. And here are the dates for this one. So I've got a Saturday on the 4th of January, Saturday the 1st of Feb, Saturday the 7th of March, Saturday the 4th of April. This day is going to run from 10 till 5, so it is a slightly shorter day. I've worked that out to be worth £1,000 of my time. Here's how. So something I didn't mention about becoming an NLP coach, which some of you might legitimately be wondering, is can you make any money doing it? I charge £250 for a 90-minute session when I work with adults, £200 for an hour session when I work with children. And I have people coming from all over the country, not just locally, to come and work with me because, I specialise in certain areas that means I attract more clients. So that day for me, if I was doing, back-to-back one-to-one sessions at £250 per 90 minutes is worth £1,000 to me. So you're getting £1,000 worth of my time, but the 1-day intro course is just £99. All right, so we've got those 4 dates lined up for 2020 already. And you will get a lot out of the 1-day intro course, but if you can make it to the prac course, we'd love to have you there. If you want to start out with the intro course and then maybe see about doing the prac later, we'll take the £99 off if you want to upgrade at a later stage. Likewise, for those of you thinking about NLP for kids, if you want to go from the NLP prac up to NLP for kids at a later stage, then we'll give you the discount. The 1-day intro course, this one's going to go up to £200 for the day next year. So you want to book it certainly, this side in 2019, rather than holding off until 2020, because you'll see quite significant price increases as a result of that. So let me finish up by asking if you've got any other questions, if there's anything I didn't address that you wanted to ask me about. Who's up for coming along and seeing me on either the intro days or the training? It would be lovely to see you all in person. I'm very excited about doing that and meeting you all and teaching you this stuff, because it's good stuff and it changes people's lives, and it certainly will change your life. But maybe as a result of you doing this, you'll go on and do other very positive things with it as well, and really start making a difference to people. So take a note of your tiny links down there. The one for the intro course, so this is tiny.cc/1D NLP, so that's for the 1-day NLP training. That is just £99 if you book it this year. So any other questions, because I'm going to wrap this up within the next 10 seconds otherwise. So if you've got something to say, send it over now. I'm going to count down from 10 down to 0. Any questions, any comments, or if you're looking to join us next year, then also let me know. Right, Ravi's off. Planning for a 1-day session for sure. Wonderful, Ravi. We are looking forward to seeing you there. Elliot, you are very welcome for such a fab webinar. All right, Debo, for 7 days, did you say pre-work of 50 hours need to be done? That is on the top side. Most people, it depends on your level of, what's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say level of competency. It's not really that. Comprehension is the word I'm looking for. So if you're someone who can read something and listen to something and pick it up fairly quick, you're going to breeze through the test paper. So your test paper is going to ask you questions that relate to what is in the manual. So in the manual, when you open it up, it says, here are the presuppositions of NLP. There's, I think, 18 of them. The first questions on the test paper is, what's your favorite NLP, 5 of your favorite NLP presuppositions and why? So then you're going to answer that and say, well, I like this one because. One of the questions is, what are the functions of the unconscious mind? You're going to go to the manual and you're going to go, right, where does it say about functions of the unconscious mind? Here it is. So then you write out you literally write what is in the manual. And the reason why it's structured that way is because we want to double check that you've read the manual and listened to the CDs before you come to the live training. Because when people come to NLP training, they've got all different levels of knowledge already. Some of them have done NLP 1-days before. Some of them have done like a Groupon online dodgy NLP training. And some of them might be practitioners, like this one coming up in February. Someone that I've trained previously is coming back for a refresher, which you can also do for free. Like once you've trained with us, you can come back and get free retraining. So you can always come back and do that like Isabella is. So you're going to have people in the room who are all different standards already. I need to make sure that we've all got the same baseline. Everyone's starting with the same foundation. So that's the purpose of the home study. So if you can like go through an index page in a manual and find the right section, you're going to use that to fill in the answer on your test paper. If you can go through the index for the CDs, find the right CD, listen to it, get some ideas, you then fill it in to answer the questions on your test paper. So some people are going to do that quickly and some people are going to take more time. So I'm sorry if that sounds a little bit vague, Debo. I would say 50 hours is really leaning towards the side of caution. Most people say it's somewhere between 10 hours upwards. Your CD content is around 6 hours. So it's going to take you at least 6 hours to get through the CDs. All right, what else have I got? So Maria, I think this was, said, thank you, that was great. You are very welcome. How many times can you re-attend the training? As many times until you've got your head around it. So once you are, this is the thing with both, with NLP for Kids, we only do it for our licensed people, but with NLP practitioner, which is obviously different company, people building, with people building, just let us know. Providing we've got space in the room, you're always welcome to come back. The only thing with coming back and doing the retraining, I will just give you a heads up, is that I will have different expectations of you. So you will be there more so in a coaching capacity, in that there will be delegates in the room who are very green and don't know very much at all. You will be taking more of a lead in helping those people to work through the processes, and I will have that expectation of you. So if we've got 4 people that are doing retraining and we've got 12 people in the room in total, each one of those 4 people is going to be working with someone who hasn't done the training before, because I want my experienced people to work with the inexperienced people, so that the inexperienced ones get the, they get to work with the people that are already really good at it. Thank you. We'll check the date for the 1-day courses. It looks very useful. Wonderful. We hope to see you there, Alexa. And Ian says, pressure. Yes, Ian, there will be pressure on you. But that's a good thing. This is the way that I learned it as well. So I did my NLP training in a very similar format. I'm not going to lie, it was intense. It was also one of the best experiences of my whole life. And then I went back to the company that I did my training with, who no longer exists, so you can't train with them, and I coached for them. So I went to the practitioner course probably about 4 times, but the 2nd, 3rd and 4th time I was going through the processes with the new delegates, and I was still learning, I was still getting stuff from it. It was still a recap for me, but I also had a bit more authority being there 2nd time around, because for the people that were like, I just don't get it, I was like, oh, let me explain it to you in a different way. So that's what will happen. Do you offer a training in the Northwest? No. I'm based in Hemel Hempstead. My training is in Hemel Hempstead. So you're going to have to get on the train, Maria. So the other way, I know I talked about getting to Hemel from London. It's going to be whatever the train line is that comes down through Birmingham. So it's from Manchester to Birmingham, Milton Keynes, Hemel Hempstead is all on the same line. So it's called the Northern Line Rail Network. If you're anywhere near that one, or you can get to that train line network, you will literally land outside our training venue. Our venue is less than a 10-minute walk away from the train station. So even if you're coming in from Manchester, you're going to land outside of our training venue and you won't have to get off the train at all, no changes. So that makes it handy. All right, I think I've now answered everybody's questions because I'm not seeing any more coming in. So I'm going to wrap it up for the evening. It was a real pleasure to speak to you. NLP for Kids might be a good option for you, Adele, definitely. Check it out. Check out the webinars that we've already done around that on the NLP for Kids YouTube channel, is what I was going to say. Heads up for you that are interested in NLP for Kids. Your foundation level training for NLP for Kids is £5,000 this year. If you buy it next year, the exact same training is £6,000. So please give the office a call if it's something that you're genuinely interested in, because the only difference between what you get this year and what you get next year is we are going to be doing some work for only those that license to get some inquiries coming in. So if you only want the training and you don't want the license, that extra £1,000 is useless to you. and because we're going to make a bit more profit, so we can put a little bit more into superheroes, our not-for-profit company. So if NLP for Kids is a genuine interest, please speak to the office, and maybe think about getting booked onto it and saving yourself £1,000 by booking it this year. You don't have to do the training this year. You just have to get it booked this year, and then you can do the training at whatever point you want to for next year. And Debo said, thank you, I might do the 1 day NLP for now. All right, good. So if you're interested in the 1 day NLP, get on over there, get yourself signed up, because the sooner I know about how many people are coming and all of that jazz, then I can make sure I get the right size room booked for us, so that I can see you all there. Just pick the dates that work for you. Let me know once you've got your place booked what dates you want to come to, because it won't ask you that in the order form. So let us know afterwards which dates you want to come to. I should mention, for both courses there are maximum numbers. I work with small groups, all right, because I want you to get this stuff, I want to pummel this stuff into your brain, so you're going to get lots of attention. So the maximum numbers for the NLP practitioner is 12. The maximum for the 1 day NLP intro course is going to be 10. All right, so if you want to be one of the 10, particularly those early in the new year dates, please get yourself booked on, because otherwise it will get filled up and then you will miss your opportunity. It's a maximum of 10. All right, so it's small groups, quite intense, but it means you get the maximum amount of learning and questions asked, etc. All right, so looking forward to seeing you all in the new year. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I will speak to you all next time. Bye everyone.